Subnautica is one of the best action-adventure survival games ever created, and Subnautica Below Zero is a sequel to said game. Now, Subnautica 2 has some massive shoes to fill because it is now the sequel to both these games. And while Subnautica as a franchise is incredibly loved and cherished in many people's hearts, it's not without its issues that need to be fixed. Here's everything Subnautica 2 needs to fix and do better than Subnautica and Subnautica Below Zero. No more land. As many of you will know, the worst part of Subnautica Below Zero is how much of the game takes place on the land. I think the Subnautica devs have now realized this mistake and won't repeat it. Not to say that there weren't fun aspects of being on the land. I think Subnautica's islands, Aurora, and precursor facilities is some of the best and most memorable parts of the game to explore. With that being said, if they are going to do more land areas, which they most likely will, in the future, don't do any more land vehicles, or at least don't do the Snow Fox, or if you do, completely rework it because it is the worst controlling vehicle I have ever experienced. Make use of every biome you create. The Bulb Zone is one of the prettiest and most dangerous biomes in the game, all without having a single Reaper present. Ampeels, Bone Sharks, Warpers, all a constant threat, making vehicle well-being vital. And then if you do decide to explore the Bulb Zone caves as an example, you will find yourself getting easily lost with lava geysers and mesmers aplenty throughout, making it one of the most dangerous caves in the game to explore. Here's the issue. You can finish the game without ever coming to this biome. There is a destroyed life pod in this biome, and that's about the only reason you will ever discover this biome. Other than that, this biome holds no vital materials you will need that you can't get anywhere else. Just look at this biome. Horrifying, right? What made these massive caves? Was it a worm like the ice worm we see in Subnautica Below Zero? Who knows? I bet majority of the players have never even seen this biome because there is no reason to explore it. This is the Sea Trotter's Path if you didn't know. Did you know there is caves inside of the trees in the Mushroom Forest? I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. There is no reason to ever go into them. Look at all these places I bet majority of the players have never even been to because the game never asks you to engage with these areas. The list goes on. Cragfield, mountains, sparse reef, underwater islands, and dunes all have no actual reason for you to interact with the areas besides general intrigue. Some might have data boxes, blueprints, or flora you can collect, but nothing you need to finish the game. Nothing saying, damn, I need to go to this area to find that item. Sure, you might say you have to go to some of these biomes via a portal at the end of the game, but I don't really count this as you engaging with the biome besides grabbing one seed from the biome, then leaving. Believe it or not, this is something Below Zero does somewhat better. Much like the Jelly Shroom caves in Subnautica, magnetite can only be found generally over at the glacial basin. Yes, very rarely in the deep lily pad caves and crystal caves, but by that point in the game, if you're in those areas, you're looking for the vital respective materials such as kyanite or nickel. Below Zero does this a lot. Nickel generally only can be found in the lily pad caves, kyanite in crystal caves, diamond and gel sacks in the deep twisty bridges, ruby at the copper mining facility, root postals only in the sea monkey dens, spiral plant clippings only in the vent garden. The list goes on. Below Zero has this way of making every biome generally vital for you to explore. Every biome either has an exclusive vital material you can only get from that biome, or is the most optimal for a certain material. In a perfect game, Subnautica 2's progression is so perfect and the biomes are so fleshed out, you have to explore each and every one of them thoroughly to make vital items and progression to the end of the game. Humans need sleep. The game asks us to eat and drink to survive. Why not ask us to sleep? It's a survival game, and it is vital to survival in the real world. Why not implement it into the game? As long as it doesn't become an annoyance or hindrance to the gameplay experience, whether it be a bar that must be filled up every few days, or making it our only way of saving. or the tried and true Minecraft experience where creatures appear trying to kill us. This survival mechanic can be very easily implemented into the game if they wanted to. Make it so the life pod has a bed. Make it so we can sleep in our vehicles. Yeah, it might not be the most comfy sleep for the player, but at least it'll get the job done. And then that'll also make it so we can skip nights, even if we're away from our base, via the vehicle, so we'd never have to explore any of these areas at night if we don't want to. Bring back the terror. Something Subnautica does to you when you play this game for the first time is make you utterly terrified of the ocean, even if you weren't scared of the ocean before. Everyone quickly jumps to the conclusion that this game is now a horror game once they feel this feeling, and you wouldn't be incorrect in this assumption, but if you actually sit down and try to understand the way the game makes you feel, you would quickly realize it's not exactly the same feeling, say, a game like Resident Evil would make you feel, or even just a plain everyday horror movie. Being terrified is more about being scared and traumatized from a threat to your safety, and being horrified is more a state of feeling very afraid or shocked, hence why a common trope in a horror movie is a jump scare. Phobias commonly bring about the feeling of terror, and Subnautica has the unique ability to make you feel like you have thalassophobia, or any of the many other phobias relating to the ocean or creatures. But here is the issue. As many of you may have noticed, eventually you get familiarized with the game the more you play it, and that terrified feeling begins to turn into more being horrified, that similar feeling you are used to. But then you may be asking, if it's impossible for me to experience this terror feeling again, then why are you saying that the game needs to bring it back? I'm saying it because Subnautica Below Zero feels like it does everything in its power not to lean into those aspects of Subnautica. The only areas that come close to any feeling of terror or horror is in the crystal caves.
Proceed with caution. A Leviathan-class creature is near.
But otherwise, not a single area brings that Sorry, I'm just terrible at saying this word. Thalassophobia Subnautica brings, because the game's too commonly leans into small caves and small areas for its biomes, which is fine in moderation, but not the way it's implemented here. There are barely any areas in the game where you'll be swimming and you can't see the sea floor or what's below you. There's rarely zones with horrifying music like the Blood Kelp zone. Creatures are less scary. Just take a look at the Chelacrit, our replacement for the Reaper Leviathan. This thing's less scary than a wet fart. Then the feeling of being alone on an alien planet is non-existent because our protagonist is voice acted, and you have an alien companion that loves to yap at all times in your head. Even when you try to go to sleep, he's yapping.
What happens as you are sleeping?
When you make a coffee, he's yapping. When you go to open the fridge for the first time, he's yapping. He doesn't stop yapping. So yeah, the list goes on for all the reasons Below Zero is less scary. I just hope the devs realize that this is a very important fact of what led to Subnautica's success and fix this issue, doubling down in the terror of Subnautica. The first time I ever got stuck in Subnautica was when I went to create enameled glass and I didn't have this mysterious tooth that was required. I quickly realized after reading the item name it was a stalker tooth, but I had no idea how I'd go about getting one. I quickly made my way to the kelp forest and began by killing a stalker. No cigar, but I observed another stalker not far from me swimming up and down picking up the metal salvage, almost like it was playing a game of catch with itself. Quite depressing if you think about it. I had noticed it before, but never really paid any attention to it. But as I was watching the stalker, I heard this chime.
Seconds.
Lo and behold, floating in the water was a stalker tooth. Then I had a similar experience when I went to make the gas torpedoes and I needed to go get them from gasopods. Then there's the more obvious crash fish that blows up and leave behind the cave sulfur, and we can all agree that no one likes the cave fish. They are the actual epitome of a dookie enemy, but you know, this quickly created a precedence that many creatures would have similar interactions like this throughout the game. Sadly, I was very wrong. It seems the devs forgot about this early in development. Not only did these interactions add interesting gameplay mechanics to the game because these items weren't obtained by simply just mining it off a wall, it also added personality to these creatures. I mean, look at this stalker carrying my camera around from my scanner room. It's adorable. Like it's like a cat or a dog. Like this thing wants to play, even though if you got near it, it will try to attack you. It's still freaking cute though. Imagine if we needed to sneak up to a sea dragon to steal a scale off of it, or had to obtain venom from the crab snakes. Better yet, allow the creatures to leave their designated biomes. You say the sea dragons will often go to the surface to take reapers down to the lava zone and eat them. Why not have this happen in the game? Something that completely ruined my immersion when playing this game was when I encountered a sea dragon here, and watch what happens. I really hope Subnautica 2 makes it so something like this can never happen, and also make it so the gameplay they made in the first place and the interactions with the creatures are back and better. This is going to be my biggest segment. Initially, I had all these points separate, but if I talk about one of them, I need to talk about all of them, as they all go hand in hand. Alright, let's begin. Here is me approaching the crash zone behind the Aurora for the first time in this playthrough. As you can see, the Reaper Leviathan is incredibly aggressive, even chasing me into the kelp zone. Now, here is me encountering a Chellerkit, not for the first time, because the first time it didn't even engage with me, but instead with the intention of actually seeing if this thing will even chase after me. As you can see, the Chellerkit has little interest in me. Here's what happens when I get caught by a Reaper outside of my Seamoth. This is my first time ever exploring the crash zone. As you can see, I'm very anxious, looking at my surroundings constantly. I notice the Reaper, it notices me, it charges me, I die within 6 seconds of engaging a Reaper. Could I have saved myself? Yes, if I was quicker to my repulsion cannon, I could have pushed it back a few times and escaped. But that's all it takes. One slip up and the Reaper swallows me whole. Here is what happens when Chellerkit catches you outside of the sea truck. No grab attack and only does just over half my health bar. Now what happens if I put on the reinforced diving suit? That means it would take 3 bites in a row for the Chellerkit to kill me. Now, what is most interesting here is I just lied to you. Here is what actually happens when you engage a Reaper. Yep, the exact same damage. Now, what you saw the first time was a genuine attack from the Reaper. The only difference was the Reaper's grab attack, which is incredibly rare for it to happen. In my testing, it seems like the likelihood of the grab attack actually taking place scales with how low your health bar is. Sure, it's possible for it to happen with full health, but incredibly unlikely. So if I was to put the reinforced diving suit gear on for the Reaper, disappointingly, you can survive 3 hits from the Reaper, as you can see here. Now, whilst watching this clip, you may have noticed another major issue, that being the AI. The Leviathan attacks me and then leaves me, giving me a window to escape, making it almost impossible to actually die to the creature unless you are actually actively trying to. Now, as the player, once you realize this, almost all the fears you have from the creatures in the game all but evaporate. Now, let's factor in the sea truck and the Seamoth. more specifically the perimeter defense system. This ability now gives you a get out of jail free card. Anytime you actually find yourself in a sticky situation with a dangerous sea creature, you click one button and those said creatures run away like a baby, even if say a Reaper Leviathan grabs you. Just look at this Reaper. So, not only does it take multiple hits for the Reaper to break your Seamoth, even if it does, it will most likely take multiple hits to kill you, but even if it were to grab your Seamoth to do said damage, you can shock it away, negating all damage it got from succeeding to grab you. And then after all that, I mean, if you really wanted to make the game even easier, you can simply use the stasis rifle and a knife to kill the creature. Then what do the devs do to negate this easy killing of creatures? They just remove the stasis rifle and the repulsion cannon from below zero instead. This is what Subnautica 2 needs to do. Have the stasis rifle and repulsion cannon or any weaponry like it needed in the game to survive the world. If I run into a Leviathan class predator outside of my vehicle, it should be a grab attack and insta death. My only way of surviving this situation is being quick enough to pull out the stasis rifle or repulsion cannon, preventing the grab. AI adjusted to be less forgiving to the player, smarter, and just straight up better AI. The reinforced diving suit or any other future suits in Subnautica 2 should not give you any protection from a Leviathan class creature. Realistically, as an example, in Below Zero, the squid shark, our mid-range creature for that game, should insta-kill you if you're grabbed by it. But then the reinforced diving suit would make it so that it doesn't insta-kill you, creating a form of progression throughout the game. Then also you would tune down vehicle abilities, either removing the perimeter defense system or keep it in the game, but make it so if you are grabbed by a creature, it cannot be used during the animation, negating damage. And then finally, Leviathan class creatures should not be able to be killed by any means. Or if you do want to have it so they can be killed, have it so once you finish the main story, you get a weapon that allows you to kill Leviathan class creatures instead. Subnautica and Subnautica Below Zero both managed to be both perfect and terrible at making depth matter in their own way. Subnautica makes it so only the prawn suit can be used to explore the final areas of the game, whilst Below Zero lets you use both the sea truck and prawn suit in the final areas of the game, making the prawn suit not even required to finish the game. Now, if you do use the sea truck, you will have little issues getting through the final areas because you will have the get out of jail free card that is the perimeter defense system. But if you use the prawn suit, on the other hand, clearly the intended way to do the final areas, you will have an incredibly intense, more engaging, fun experience. But then, on the other side of the coin, before the final areas of the game in Below Zero commonly asks you to take the sea truck to the maximum depth the vehicle can go, then swim the rest of the way, making you susceptible to attacks in areas that you have never been in without the safety of a vehicle. Because to get the depth modules you require, the materials are in those depths. Then the game also forces you out of your vehicle regularly into caves that you can't take the sea truck. This is all achieved by putting oxygen plants in all these caves and deep areas, essentially making Below Zero, when it comes to exploration, in a lot of cases, actually better than Subnautica, if it only had the creatures to back it up. The Twisty Bridges is probably the best example. It's this mad dash around the cave, looking for vital materials and blueprints, all whilst making sure you know where the next oxygen plant is, making sure brute sharks and squid sharks don't sneak up on you, and spiky traps don't grab you doing damage and slowing you down. Subnautica 2 needs to take a page from what works in both of these games, implement them, and improve them. Alright, that's gonna be all from me. There is probably some things I missed or are important, but I don't know, the video's gone for 18 minutes now. It's probably enough yapping. Is there anything I have missed or you think is really important that you want in Subnautica 2, or even things you disagree with what I said? Because I guarantee there's people that probably don't exactly agree with some of the things I said and probably want different things from Subnautica 2. And if there is, let me know, like, or unless you agree with those things, tell me, or like maybe you agree to them to a certain degree, but not, not entirely, which is totally fine. Anyways, I'm gonna get out of here. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day, morning, night, whatever it is, just have a good freaking time, yeah? Alright, see ya.